But what about your Wuthering Heights history? Any background with that?
I've never read the book. You know I can't read. We talk about this often on the pod. I've never read it. I'm not interested in it.
Have you watched any of the other films? Because there's quite a few.
No, have you watched any of them?
I haven't, but I have read the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course you did. You love to read. You see a gigantic tome of literature and you say, that's for me. The more boring, the better. And you'll sit there with your little glasses curled up, your little legs crossed underneath your tuchus, and you'll just read away and look at Housewives over the rim of the book every now and then. That's what you like to do.
But yes, I did read the book. I did specifically read the book for this film.
You did not, Justin. Who has this time? This is crazy. I don't know how you live. You have a time turner. Speaking of Harry Potter.
A time turner? Listen, yeah. I like to read. I have an hour-long commute one way. You know, I get a lot of reading done on the train. That's how I pass my time.
I forget that you have to commute an hour each way to work.
Yeah.
That is so tough. I think you need to move. I think you got to move.
I like to read, so I'm making it work. You know, my life, I wouldn't change a thing at this moment. I'm a big fan of the long, the passive commute. If I had to drive an hour every day or 2 hours every day, an hour one way,
yeah,
I would simply jump off a Wuthering Height. I think I'm gonna die in this house. Justin.
And I think everybody is acting very poorly. Geoff.
And welcome to Bands. Geoff, I don't know about you, but in Washington, D.C., it is above freezing.
Yeah.
And yesterday was Valentine's Day. It was a wonderfully warm day. I had an amazing Saturday, Geoff. How about you?
Did you have warmth in your heart, Justin?
Geoff, you know I had warmth in my heart.
And did you have warmth in your loins?
Well, you know, I don't care to talk about that on the pod, but I appreciate the question. Maybe we'll talk about that afterwards.
All right. Sounds like you had a lovely and action-packed Valentine's Day.
I did, and part of that action-packed Valentine's Day weekend was indeed the film Wuthering Heights and the accompanying Charli XCX soundtrack album, also called Wuthering Heights. And Geoff, that's what we're talking about today on the pod.
We're going to get really far into it, really deep into it.
We're going to get so deep.
You know what? This movie and soundtrack, very interesting relationship there. Very interesting. Well, we'll talk about it.
We'll get into it for sure. Geoff, why don't we get into some, before we get into Wuthering Heights, why don't we get into some hot topics? And Geoff, you know that we're continuously covering the Winter Olympics as they occur.
That's right.
Not necessarily the sports, the medals, the results, but just the 411, the hot goss that's coming out of the Olympics.
Okay, well, I know that you have something you want to talk about because we've already chatted about it offline, and then I have something that I want to mention too. So you tell us about this very fascinating occurrence.
That's exactly right, Geoff. I do want to talk about this Norwegian biathlete who recently had a very interesting bronze medal speech.
Biathlete?
We don't know about his sexuality. I don't want to make any assumptions. But the biathlon is an event in the Winter Olympics, which involves cross-country skiing followed by shooting. So it is like a combination of physical endurance and then like mental acuity following that endurance. It's an interesting combination of skills.
Now, I have a question already.
Okay.
Shooting. Are we literally talking shooting like clay discs with guns?
Yes, guns. That's correct. Yes,
okay.
It's like a rifle.
How is this a winter sport?
Well, the skiing.
I mean, okay, but I meant specifically the shooting part of it. How's that winter?
Well, Geoff, it's the biathlon that is the sport, not just the shooting. It's a combination of the two that makes the sport.
You know what? You can't just put two things that are unrelated together and be like, now this is like one continuous work. Do you know what I'm saying? That is like, it just makes, it's sort of like the Harry Potter series. Like 1 and 2, I'm like, it doesn't relate that much to the rest of the books. Like they're kind of almost standalone precursor adventures.
Damn, this is a stealth hot take out here. You're saying Harry Potter 1 and 2 can be excised from the rest of the series.
I think you didn't need those first 2 books to really, you know, have the complete story of like overthrowing a fascist and authoritarian government.
This is very interesting. But this is not a podcast about Harry Potter this week. So let's go back to the biathlon, which
this would be like, let's do skiing and then followed by a rousing round of tennis. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense.
There's a triathlon, which is like a famously very difficult event, and there's like the pentathlon. Brandy, what are the other ones?
Decathlon.
The decathlon. There's a heptathlon as well, Brandy is informing me.
For people with hepatitis, they need to have their own sports. Representation matters.
I think that's actually like the prefix for 7. So I think it's just 7 sports.
I don't think that's right, Justin, but okay, you can do your own research.
Clearly you did do your own research on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a series of sports like this where it is like a unique combination of skills that it's like you're kind of a generalist if you're good at one of these sports.
I have a particular set of skills.
It's a jack of all trades. Maybe you're not as good at cross-country skiing as like the skiing pro, but you have the combination of like mental focus and physical ability to do both.
Well, in that case, I would call it like a Liam of all trades, not a jack of all trades.
Why is that? Who are you thinking of? A particular Liam?
I have a particular set of skills.
Oh, Neeson.
Yeah,
that's the one. Okay,
that's a Neeson. One for the Neeson count.
Do you think we're going to talk about Liam Neeson more than once this episode?
I don't know. I'm just leaving the possibility open.
Okay, well, we'll continue to count as needed, listeners.
I'm holding space for that. All right, this Norwegian biathlete.
Yes, this.
What did he do?
One word, biathlete. We don't know if he's bi, but his name is Sturla Holm-Lagerud, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He had a very interesting bronze medal interview where he told the interviewer after he won his bronze medal, and I quote, "6 months ago, I met the love of my life, the world's most beautiful, sweetest person. And 3 months ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life and cheated on her.
Okay.
I'm sure many people now see me in a different light, but I only have eyes for her. I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say by saying this now, but sport has taken a back seat in recent days. I wish I could share this with her."
Well, you did just share that with the entire world. And we're really this heartbroken over somebody that you knew for 3 months and then cheated on? That's wild. And now 3 months later, you're like, I got to talk about it to everybody.
This is so unhinged. And I have, listen, I understand that this man, like, I get it, dude. I'm sure you're going through it. I'm sure you're mentally maybe not in the best place right now. And I do have sympathy for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just this is general advice for anyone out there who may be pining for somebody that broke up with them or whatever. It's right after Valentine's Day. I'm sure everybody's feeling a little bit hurt. There's a lot of people out there feeling a little bit hurt right now.
Lonely Hearts Club.
Work on yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying to him.
Those are inside thoughts, I think.
Yes, these are not things that you should be sharing on internationally broadcast television.
Right.
And also, obviously, you know that you made a mistake in the cheating process, right? So just consider, instead of taking that pain and projecting it outward, focusing it inward on yourself and becoming a better person. That's the only way that there's any possibility that this person, your partner, may come back, is if you become a better person in and of yourself.
Or take your broken heart, turn it into art. Meryl Streep.
There you go. I mean, he won the bronze medal, Here's the other thing about this. His teammate from the Norwegian team won the gold medal at the same competition.
So he cannibalized the interview?
And then after this, the gold medal winner had to be like, crazy that I have to follow that up. And he won the competition, the Olympic gold medal.
Wow. And Justin, you didn't even say his name. Put some respect on that man's name.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. He said his name is Johan because this man who won the bronze medal said, "Now I hope I didn't ruin Johan's day. Maybe it was really selfish of me to give that interview. I'm not really here mentally." To that I say, Sturla, you are correct. You were being selfish and it was a poor decision. So that's a little bit tough for me.
He's processing in real time.
Yeah, and we need to stop doing that.
We're witnessing it.
We need to stop processing in real time. Don't post through it. Don't give interviews through it. Just be alone. It's actually okay to be alone.
Justin, here's my thing about sports in general. I don't know that we always need to do a big interview after something happens, because I have to tell you, the quality of those interviews is almost never great. For example, I've seen so many interviews with football teams who've lost their game, and then afterwards they're like, "We just went out there, we gave it our all, we did our best, man. That's all we can ask for. I'm really proud of all the guys." There's a variation of that speech given.
That was such an incredible impression.
Yeah, it's that's the variation.
That's the level of analysis we're getting from football players on the field.
Exactly. But it's not unique to football players.
Right. This is not shade.
What do you expect any athlete to say who just was disappointed in themselves and feels like embarrassed or shame based on them not winning? Like they're all going to say some variation of that. Right. It's also like, get the cameras out my face. Leave those people alone.
They're oxygen deprived. Yeah, like it's not crazy that they can't provide like high quality commentary. Like, are you really shocked about that?
Yeah. Well, this brings me to the thing I want to talk about Ilya, American figure skater Ilya losing. He was like slated to take the gold.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about heated rivalry for a second.
Oh, well, I do love heated rivalry. But this is a different kind of skater named Ilya.
Yes.
I forget what his last name is. James?
I don't know what his last name is. Let me look.
I don't know either. I was hoping James would come through. He never answers me. I'm always out here shouting his name.
Ilya Malinin?
Malinin, that's right. I kept wanting to say Reznikov.
For obvious reasons.
Heated rivalry.
Yeah.
But Ilya Malinin did not do very well in his performance, and I felt so bad for him. He was under so much pressure, and I think he still did great. And it was so annoying to me, the amount of cameras that were like foisted upon this kid just after he finished his program. Didn't do great. Knew that like he started off like falling twice at both of his first attempts at, I think it was like the quad axle, which is like impossible. Like there are very few people who are actually able to execute that trick.
Yeah.
And people were just in his face, and the cameras were like following him from like the rink after they announced the score to like the staging area or green room, if you will, because it's not really a locker room. And I'm like, leave this kid alone. He's obviously upset and didn't do what he thought he was going to do, and is under a lot of pressure. It makes me mad. Everybody fuck off. I think everyone's behaving very poorly.
And he's only 21, so it's...
Yeah, he's a young baby. Leave him alone.
Babies. Every Olympics, I'm like, these people are so young. It's wild to be on the world stage at that age.
They're so young. The skateboarders I was watching not skateboarders, they were snowboarders the other day. I said, this kid has like pimply acne. He looks like he's like, I don't know, 12. They said, oh, he's 16. I'm like, this is too young to be competing on the world stage.
It's wild.
I think you need to be 20 years old or up, It's too much pressure and so much danger.
It's a lot of pressure, but a lot of those like extreme sports attract young athletes. Shaun White, how old was he when he performed in his first Olympics? And it's every 4 years, so if you miss like one of those Olympics, there's a big jump from 16 to 20.
That's true.
Yeah.
4 years. In fact, that's
exactly how big the jump is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's analysis.
You won't get that on the field.
Anything else about Ilya?
Well, I just have a general question I'd like to, or maybe it's not a question. Maybe it's just a point. Why? Well, no, it is a question.
Okay.
Why does every male figure skater look like a manga villain? The way that they outfit these men, I'm like, they all look like they're evil princes with a dark secret. Even Ilya. Did you see his outfit? Black rhinestone flames.
Because I did Google his name while you were talking, yeah.
Big hair pushed way back. I'm like, this looks like a character in Final Fantasy X, which is also known as Final Fantasy X.
Yes, Final Fantasy X, that's correct. I wonder, what is the style philosophy behind figure skater costumes or outfits? I shouldn't say costumes. Because it does seem like there's a united theme there going on.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's always men wear black pant. Mm-hmm. And then dark color top. And then it's with the women, it's like women have lots of skin showing, but it's like through that sheer pantyhose style stuff, like, which is flattering on nobody. Okay. And then there are like lots of twirly gigs and rhinestones and shimmer, but it can be light color. It doesn't have to be dark color like men's. Very heteronormative.
There's a lot of shiny on the men's outfits as well,
but it's always dark color.
So you think it's the coloration that needs to change? That's what makes you think it's like villain energy.
Well, it's that. It's also the hairstyling. Not one of those men has a good haircut, and I'm like, is this part of it?
What would be, because I think when you have long hair and you're skating very fast across the ice, it's gonna get blown back. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But are you suggesting like a shorter haircut then? Just like a more traditional, or?
I just like to see somebody out there with like, like a hockey bro mullet kind of cut. I think that'd be interesting. That would change it up.
You want a mullet?
How about a mustache?
I wonder if there is a selection that happens for men that are interested in figure skating over other ice sports, and whether that has something to do with the style differences, like the hairstyle differences, like why we don't see mullets in figure skaters.
Oh, I think they're just like these very traditional kind of industries, and they don't really want people to air out of the distinct little niche lanes that they've made for these folks.
Very true.
And like the girls always have like, they're never skating with their hair down. They always have like a tight bun or like a short ponytail.
That's got to be for safety though, right? Like so you can see.
Maybe.
I mean,
maybe that's part of it.
You're twisting around. You're going to have your hair down.
All right, I'm not. Listen, I'm just saying. I'd like to see a little bit of a change. I'd like to shake it up a bit. I think that would be more fun. I'd also like some really cool colors, like neon. That'd be fun. What about like black and like acid green? That would be a cool combo. You don't see that.
Very brat.
Very brat. Very brat. Yeah, let's do brat, but like the Amazon version of it,
I just imagine like a Charli mannequin like in the moment doing a spin and then like falling.
That's what I'd look like if I was out on the ice.
Like a Miss Piggy. I'm imagining now a Miss Piggy sketch where she fails horribly during a figure skating attempt. Like,
I actually think that was a Muppet Show thing.
Okay.
This seems very familiar to me.
Maybe this is a memory.
It could be. What is that called? When you have like, you think you're convinced it's your own memory, but it's actually something that many people have seen. There's like a name for that sensation.
I don't know.
I forget. It doesn't matter. I don't really know a lot of things,
That's not true. Geoff, something that I do know is about the band Bleachers, which is, of course, head by, one of the leading creatives in today's pop landscape, Jack Antonoff. And they have just announced their 5th album, which is called Everyone for 10 Minutes, which is due to come out on May 22nd. In a press release, Bleachers has described the album as an inevitable culmination of a lifetime of devotion to bands for the 6 members of Bleachers, and ultimately finds each one at their creative peak. There are moments where it briefly peers into darkness, but is essentially an optimistic record that feels love-struck and hopeful, leaping from harmony-laden folk rock to shimmering pop soul to the sax-assisted New Jersey sound that Bleachers have become synonymous for. And they've, of course, put out a lead single from the album, which is called You and Forever, and a music video associated with that song. So, Geoff, have you listened to the song? And are you excited for this new Bleachers album?
I'm not that excited for it. I did watch the music video, and the best part of it was Margaret Qualley. She's just so beautiful.
Jack Antonoff just keeps pushing it in people's faces that he is married to Margaret Qualley.
Yeah, no kidding.
Listen.
He wants everyone to know.
Who could blame him? I mean, she's one of the most beautiful actors working right now. And her whole role in this music video is basically just to like dress up in the house and like play like fashion show at lunch in front of the mirror, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Fashion show at lunch. And she is twirling in heels, though. What about heel dancing? That could be an interesting Olympic sport.
Heel dancing. Just dancing, but in heels. Okay.
Yeah, maybe Bavarian heel dancing. Doesn't that sound like a real thing that exists?
Sure. That could be.
I'd like to see it. Let's celebrate those who dance in heels.
She also starred in the Bleachers music video for Tiny Moves off of their last album.
Biggest answer, tiniest moves.
That's right. And this song is also like it's a very straightforward love song.
Yeah. I feel like it's about finding your person.
Darling, just here and forever.
Right. Yeah. And it feels like Jack Antonoff is definitely in a romantic mindset. And the description of this album makes me think that it's going to be a lot about just love.
That description, by the way, is a little unhinged.
Well, you got to remember, this is like press release, probably developed by his label. Who even knows how much influence that the band.
Listen, let me read it. So I'm gonna render you a dramatic reading of this.
You're gonna repeat. Okay.
And you're just gonna repeat what I said? Yes, I am, with flaneur. An inevitable culmination of a lifetime of devotion to bands for the 6 members of Bleachers, and ultimately finds each one at their creative peak.
It's dramatic. It's press. You know what I mean? It's like, it's always going to be a little bit crazy. But you said that you're not excited for the album. So that tells me maybe the music was not speaking to you.
Yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. And I just am like, is singing Jack Antonoff's strength? Because I don't think it sounded great.
So you're not a fan is the short version there.
Of this song, I don't love it. I like some of the Bleacher songs. I like the beat.
And that's analysis.
That's a Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I like the beat. Oh, that's a reference. Okay.
Yeah, it's a reference. Kim Zolciak puts out a single and they play it at the reunion and all the women are standing there in silence and Andy's like, what does everyone think? And then Sheree Whitfield goes, yeah, I like the beat.
I will say I watched the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City reunion with Brandy the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Cohen I can't tell if he like secretly enjoys being in the middle of all of this chaos, but I think at one point there was so much arguing that he literally just got up and pretended to leave.
Yes, he really did.
I can't tell. He always looks a little bit like he is having a fun time, but
he loves it.
So like the walk-off is kind of dramatic in and of itself, you know what
Yes, but you know what? Okay, I got to talk about this because I also watched that reunion, obviously.
Yeah.
And there was more crosstalk in this reunion series
than on this podcast, which is a very high bar.
Yeah, and it was very overstimulating for me.
Mm-hmm.
I paused it and looked at my mom because we were watching it together, and I'm like, this is driving me crazy. I'm like, I don't blame him for getting up and walking away because it's like you literally cannot hear what people are saying because all, like at points, like the 7 of them are all talking at once and just like shouting over each other to be heard. And Barlow is so diabolical. She's just like repeating the same canned line. She's like Pam Bondi.
It was just clearly like no respect. Like
you're a failed lawyer. I couldn't believe she said that. I'm like, do you hear how stupid you sound?
That's Housewives, baby.
Well, no, I'm talking about Pam Bondi.
Well, that's also Housewives, baby.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's kind of the whole philosophy.
Yeah, but what is it about Congress has just like devolved into the like Housewives? Like every single hearing is like a reunion show.
Well, I'm not the first person to say that we have a reality TV star as president. So, this is an old talking point at this point. And I think that unfortunately...
Wow. Justin said old news.
Some people involved with the administration think that reality TV entertainment is the way towards political popularity.
Tough.
Speaking of tough, Geoff, we do want to touch on the recent passing of James VanderBeek, obviously the star of Dawson's Creek. He also played himself in, what was it, The Bee in Apartment 23? Is that right?
Yeah, Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
Beloved actor. He passed away of early onset colorectal cancer, which is awful. And he left behind his wife and 6 children.
It's very sad that he's died. There are some very touching tributes on social media from his former co-stars, fellow like child actors, although he wasn't necessarily a child when he was on Dawson's Creek, but young actors who
he portrayed
came up in the biz with him. It's awful. I feel terrible for his family. 6 kids. That's a lot of kids to leave behind. But also everybody should make sure that once you are of the adequate age that your insurance will allow it, you need to go get a colonoscopy. Not a fun time, but definitely good to catch things as early as possible.
And, one of the things that's really especially sad about this situation is that even when he was going through like initial treatment for cancer, he actually started selling some memorabilia from the Dawson's Creek days to help fund his cancer treatment. And now that he's passed, his family or friends of the family have set up a GoFundMe to help support his family, which has, I think, made a bunch of money now. So like, by no means you need to like go donate. I think Steven Spielberg donated like $25,000 to it or something. But it just goes to show once again how broken the healthcare system is in this country, that
no kidding.
One of the most like recognizable faces in Hollywood is like out here selling merch to fund his cancer treatment. It's horrible, honestly.
And let's talk about this too. SAG-AFTRA, you do not get health insurance unless you are working each year. So basically you have to book a SAG job, a union job each year in order to keep your health insurance for that year. So there are a lot of actors out there who have been extremely famous, even have like won, Academy Awards, Emmys, Golden Globes, the rest. And if they don't book a SAG union job that year, they do not have health insurance. That is insane to know, because we generally think of like actors as like very privileged and kind of pampered people. But that's not the case for probably, I would say 95% of working actors. And B, is like, hi, yeah, your health insurance should not be dependent on you being like gainfully employed. Like, it's a right, and we should all have it at any point in time. We shouldn't be having to stay in shitty jobs and working in toxic environments or working periods in order to have access to healthcare that is by any stretch of the imagination affordable.
Just very sad situation all around, and we're thinking of his family and his children, of course.
Well, Justin, with that, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll talk about something that is slightly more. Well, is it actually? Well, we'll just be back.
We'll talk about some stuff.
And we're back.
Geoff, we're so back. And today we're talking about Wuthering Heights, the film and the album. But let's talk about the film first. So Wuthering Heights 2026, this is Emerald Fennell's follow-up to Saltburn, which was a surprise hit, I would say, a few years ago, also starring Jacob Elordi. This is the 7th English language adaptation of the 1847 novel by Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights. It stars Margot Robbie as Catherine Earnshaw and Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. And in supporting roles, it stars Hong Chow, who was in one of our favorite shows, Watchmen.
And The Whale.
Shazad Latif, Alison Oliver, who was also in Saltburn and also in the television show Task, which we both loved. And also stars Martin Clunes and Ewan Mitchell. Ewan Mitchell is in House of the Dragon.
Of course. I recognize that chin anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a face, right? That guy has a very recognizable face.
Very recognizable.
So there's a stacked cast here in Wuthering Heights. According to the marketing, Geoff, this is one of the greatest love stories of all time.
According to the marketing.
So speaking of the marketing, Geoff, what were your expectations of this film based on the marketing? I don't know if you have history with Emerald Fennell or with Wuthering Heights or other film adaptations of the novel.
Justin, this is simply untrue. You know that I know Emerald Fennell's work. You know that I watched Saltburn and did enjoy it for what it was. You know that I also have watched Promising Young Woman. And you know that I also think that Emerald Fennell is a better actor than she is director because she was great in The Crown playing Camilla Parker Bowles. A young Camilla Parker Bowles.
This is all coming back to me because I think when we covered the trailer on the pod, you mentioned this. Yes, but
I think didn't we talk about Saltburn when we first started the pod?
I can't remember. I think maybe it was when we were talking about Wuthering Heights.
I think it might have been one of our very early What's Goods.
No, it definitely wasn't.
It was probably one of my very early What's Goods.
It was absolutely not.
Justin, are you sure?
I can guarantee it was not a What's Good. That film came out long ago before we started this pod.
Murder on the Dance Floor.
It did have a cultural moment.
Yeah, it sure did.
Saltburn is your favorite of her films? Not to spoil, but...
I don't think that it is. I think that Promising Young Woman is probably my favorite. I do think that the ending was tough for that movie, but I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was good. And that was like one of those movies that I think had like... It changed tones quite a bit, and I think that it also had like a kind of a thriller aspect to it that I love, because I love a thriller, not a horror, but a thriller.
Okay, so that's like your Emerald Fennell history, but what about your Wuthering Heights history? Any background with that?
I've never read the book. I can't read. We talk about this often on the pod. I've never read it. I'm not interested in it.
Have you watched any of the other films? Because there's quite a few.
No, have you watched any of them?
I haven't, but I have read the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, of course you did. You love to read. You see a gigantic tome of literature and you say, that's for me. The more boring, the better. And you'll sit there with your little glasses curled up, your little legs crossed underneath your tuchus, and you'll just read away and look at housewives over the rim of the book every now and then. That's what you like to do.
I mean, you're saying this like it's an insult, but that's just an accurate and very cozy picture that you've painted.
I'm not saying it's an insult. If you took it that way, I don't know what's wrong with you. You sit there with your glasses,
get your little feet under your little tuchus.
I'm just saying that's what you look like. That's very cute. That's what I'm saying. It's cute. You just sit there in your little thing. You like to read your little books.
So maybe I'm projecting here.
I think you are projecting.
But yes, I did read the book. I did specifically read the book for this film.
You did not, Justin. Who has this time? This is crazy. I don't know how you live. You have a time turner. Speaking of Harry Potter.
A time turner? Listen, I like to read.
2 on the Harry Potter count.
I have an hour-long commute one way. I get a lot of reading done on the train. That's how I pass my time.
I forget that you have to commute an hour each way to work.
Yeah.
That is so tough. I think you need to move. I think you got to move.
I like to read, so I'm making it work. My life, I wouldn't change a thing at this moment. I'm a big fan of the long passive commute. If I had to drive an hour every day or 2 hours every day, an hour one way,
yeah,
I would simply jump off a Wuthering Height.
That was good. That was good.
But yeah, so in terms of my expectations of this movie, Emerald Fennell, I have mixed.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at I'm going to jump off a Wuthering Height. That's a point for you. That's 2 points for you. You really gave me a belly laugh there.
I'll take those. I will happily take those. Yeah, so Emerald Fennell, like you, I have kind of mixed feelings on. I was pretty low on Saltburn.
I know, you did not like it.
It was the epitome of provocation for provocation's sake, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It was like a very thematically shallow film that looked pretty and hung a lot of dick, which, depending on your preferences, maybe that's a plus for you.
Preferences? Wow.
Yeah, whether you prefer a penis in your films or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Thought you were making it a gay thing and then calling gayness a preference.
No, it can very much be a straight thing,
The LGBT army was about to come for your ass.
Oh my God.
COME.
We'll get into more butt stuff later.
Wait for me.
Actually, shockingly little butt in this film. The advertising for this film, calling it a romance, knowing what the book is about, was a little bit off-putting. And I think when we talked about the trailer, you brought up the fact that Wuthering Heights is in quotes in like the logo of the film. At the time, I was like, I think that would be a little bit cheesy for her to be like, putting quotes around Wuthering Heights to mean that it's her version. Well, Geoff, I hate to say that I do think that it was intentional. That's a point for you.
Woo!
And I do think that Emerald Fennell is indeed that cheesy. So I think that it is a little bit of a creative writing. I'm doing my version of Wuthering Heights, not a direct adaptation of the book.
Right. This is like a film inspired by the tale Wuthering Heights.
Yes. Yeah. So all that being said, my expectations of this film were pretty low going in. And I think that to get into our conversation about the film itself, the critical reception of this film has been very polarizing. And that also contributed to some low expectations going in.
Mm-hmm.
But with that preamble out of the way, Geoff, what did you think of the film?
Well, I believe that there was a shocking lack of nudity and sex in this film. I do not think that there was a great deal of romance, so the Valentine's Day release is crazy to me. And I think that they did that thing where they tried to market it as one thing, but the final product was really not relative to the marketing in really any way. I think it had like a lot of production and visual strengths, but I don't think that the story was flushed out. And I also think that all of the characters, the actors were too old for them.
Interesting.
What did you think about it, just like overall?
The conversation around this film has been absolutely unhinged, right? So you have some people who are like, TikToks of people drooling in the movie theater being like, oh my God, like this is the hottest thing I've ever seen. And then on the other side, you have like Letterboxd Cinema Bros being like, half a star, this is an embarrassment. How dare Emerald Fennell like destroy this literary masterwork this way? And it's usually men saying this on Letterboxd.
Of course.
And I think that, we have this history of diminishing, especially female filmmakers, but any like romance film in the theater. I mean, listen, 50 Shades of Grey is not like a masterpiece, but like the whole conversation around that book was also pretty tough, where it was like, this is garbage or this is smut, and like shaming women for liking that stuff. So I just want to preface my thoughts about this with that context, because I do think that some of the backlash to Wuthering Heights is for that reason, right? It's like
sexism.
Yeah, it's sexism, essentially. Like, this is foolish because women like it and it was made by a woman and produced, Margot Robbie produced this.
Yep.
I think that not looking at it as an adaptation of the novel, it did exactly what it wanted to do, right? It's a pretty shallow but effective. I kind of disagree that there's no romance, but I think Emerald Fennell's version of romance may differ from a lot of people's idea of romance. I do think that in Emerald Fennell's vision, it is a romance that was effective at what it was trying to do. And I think your enjoyment of that side of it is very dependent on how you feel about Jacob Elordi. If he is somebody that you're swooning over, that you find to be like a very attractive person, this is going to work. And being in a full IMAX theater watching this movie, I can say that it absolutely worked on a lot of people in that theater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a perfect romance film in that way. This is not like a modern classic like The Notebook, and we'll, I'm sure, talk about that. But I think it did what it wanted to do, in that two of the hottest people that we have in Hollywood right now are making out, sticking fingers in each other's mouths.
Hottest people.
I mean, it is like, it's Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Like, come on.
Oh, please. They're dogs. Absolute dogs.
I mean, we'll get into that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's the other way to look at this, which is as an adaptation of the novel, Wuthering Heights. And it is just not a good adaptation. It takes all of the complexity and the many layers, and honestly, like 2/3 of the characters from that novel, and just completely axes them from the narrative, and turns it into a very simple taboo things are hot storyline, right? So this film opens with a sound.
I hate this.
And it's like a groaning sound.
And creaking.
And it is rising in frequency and volume. And, you know, as the audience, you know it's a romance that you're going into. You're thinking, is somebody potentially having sex? Is somebody jerking off?
Yeah.
Like, it's what's going on here? And then this is all on a black screen, right? And then suddenly the first shot comes in, and it is a man hanging from a noose, and he's actually suffocating, and that's the sound that you're hearing. And as this is happening, there's like children in the crowd who notice that the guy who's being hanged has a boner, and he actually like has kind of, this is something that does happen in real life. He actually kind of like achieves climax while hanging. And there's a needle drop of House by Charli XCX, and there's this very metal like, yeah, and like everybody's cheering for the death of this guy. And that's the thesis statement of the movie, in my opinion. It is essentially like death and taboo things and dirtiness and grossness and disgustingness. Ugh. And that being overlaid with pleasure. Like, that is what Emerald Fennell, or at least her vision of this movie, that is the vision of romance that Emerald Fennell has. And that's like echoed over and over again in the film, with shots of snails going over windows, of leeches swimming in the water, right? Of runny eggs through people's fingers, right? Like these disgusting things that Emerald Fennell is equating with eroticism and romance.
Yeah.
And that's a thesis of the film, but that's basically as deep as it goes. And it says that in the first scene. So that's my take on it. I think that as like a romance, if you look at this as like an MTV-ified, very pop romance, because it is very provocative, it was entertaining. But I think as like a Wuthering Heights adaptation, extremely bad. So that's my like high level thoughts on it.
I agree with what you're saying about like she executed her vision. I just think her vision is bad. And I also think it was for me, it was too yucky for me to get into it. Like, everything is so dirty and unsanitary. Like, I'm like, everybody's behaving badly and everyone needs to bathe with like soap and like scrub your fingernails. It's just, I did not like the like grotesqueness of this movie. It really turned me off in a big way. I actually did think about getting up and leaving.
Damn, at which part?
I think that the part where I was like, okay, this is okay. Oh, we should talk about the walls.
Oh, the flesh walls?
The flesh walls. They painted these walls, which I think actually were like padded.
Yeah.
So it's like they painted fabric to like perfectly mimic Margot Robbie's skin. And there were like freckles, and even like you could see like capillaries like lying beneath the surface of this like, you know, wall painted to look like her skin. It was very grotesque. I did not like that at all. Mm-hmm. And the guy was saying, oh, I hired people to paint the walls of your room to match your flesh perfectly.
Weird.
Because like, you're my beautiful creature. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That was a lot.
Well, so if we get into like maybe what the plot of this movie is, right? The premise here is that Catherine, Margot Robbie, is the daughter of Mr. Earnshaw. And Mr. Earnshaw brings home Heathcliff, Jacob Elordi, as kind of like an orphan boy, or actually in the film, he kind of just takes him from his father, who just like gives him to him allegedly. You know, there's some mystery background there.
Don't like that.
And as children, they like fall in love, but Catherine doesn't want to marry him / can't marry him, depending on your perspective, because she wants to marry rich so that she can be like a landowner, a respectable member of society. And Heathcliff is like too poor. He's a servant. You know, the word that's used in the film and in the book is that she would degrade herself to marry Heathcliff. And then instead she marries Edgar Linton, who is a rich landowner who lives just nearby. And he's like in the film, he makes his fortune on textiles. So like as soon as she marries Edgar, she like is suddenly in all these beautiful dresses that are kind of like anachronistic, which I think are actually kind of like one of the highlights of the film, like the fits.
The costumes, Justin.
Oh, now we're saying costumes.
Fit is dated. Fit is so 2000 and late.
The dresses, the beautiful gowns, you know,
Gowns,
they are beautiful. Some of the outdoor shots of Margot Robbie in like differing veils with the wind blowing them into her face are like truly, I mean, they're gorgeous, you know? Yeah, so I think that's a big strength of the movie. But yeah, so when she moves into Edgar Linton's house, he puts her into her own bedroom, which I'm not really like a historian, so maybe this was usual for people to have separate bedrooms at this time, but not a great sign in the early stages of your marriage. And yeah, the walls are like the color of her flesh, which is, I guess, like a symbol ? But clearly she's imprisoned in that space.
The sconces in Edgar's house that are, you know, shaped like arms that are holding the candles.
Mm-hmm.
That is a throwback to La Belle et la Bête, Beauty and the Beast, which was a 1946 French film that was directed by Jean Cocteau. And this is like a film that I think isn't like really super well known by people that are not like cinephiles or francophiles, but it was kind of like it's like almost like a Criterion Collection level film where it like really changed the way that a lot of like horror movies were shot. It was like a very surrealist filming style. And so they used a lot of practical effects in it. And it was sort of like a horror movie version of The Beauty and the Beast.
It kind of makes sense, yeah.
Close to the Brothers
Fairy
Grimm.
tale. Yeah.
Kind of a fairy tale. Yeah. But so that was kind of a cool callback to see that.
So Geoff, you mentioned that you weren't a big fan of the two lead performances here from Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. So let's talk about those performances, because I think that a big part of like your perception or your take on this film, or one's take on this film, is how you bought those performances. So what did you find difficult about them?
Well, it wasn't that I didn't like their performances. It was that I think that they were too old for their characters.
They were miscast, you're saying?
Yes. I think that Margot Robbie was definitely miscast because, you know, I mean, she looks fantastic for sure. She's beautiful, but she definitely looks like she's in her 30s or like maybe early 40s. And the way she was acting was like a petulant teenager, which makes sense given that in the book.
Well, she literally is a teenager.
These other adaptations of Wuthering Heights, she's, like 18. So it was just kind of like, I don't know, it was off-putting to see her act like such an immature way when it's like I'm looking at her and I'm like, girl, you're too grown for this kind of behavior. This is foolish.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was like an intentional choice by Emerald Fennell to be like, you know, whether it was like a commentary on people's primal instincts or primal desires and that kind of transcending through age. I don't know if it was like an intentional thing, but it feels to me like maybe it wasn't necessarily intentional and it was just like, oh, we need a big star to attach to this film that's going to get butts in seats.
I mean, I think it's that. I mean, it's important to note that Margot Robbie has produced both Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. So like Emerald Fennell and Margot Robbie have like a business and creative partnership that's existed. And I think that part of getting this movie made was casting a big name like Margot Robbie in it, right? And this is also a WB film. Of course, they made Barbie. So they, I'm sure, see Margot Robbie as like a bankable star.
Right.
I think that Margot is an incredible actress, but I do think that there's a lot of Barbie in this performance. And in Barbie, it worked because Barbie is like an adult woman that behaves like a child. Like that's part of the gag in Barbie.
Yeah.
But that's another thing about this film that I found a little bit weird is that tonally it shifted. It had a little bit of whiplash tonally because it was often trying to do some comedy. And often like Catherine was trying to be funny and cute. And I could see like some of the side characters being funny and them being like comic relief and kind of being like in a different movie. And that might have worked. Yeah. I thought that, Isabella, who's portrayed by Alison Oliver, I thought she was actually like the highlight of the movie for me. She's consistently great in everything that she's in. And she was also the best thing in Saltburn. But the humor that Catherine tried to give off in this film was like very hit or miss for me. And I think that is because like she was doing kind of a Barbie thing.
Yeah.
But what about Jacob Elordi?
I didn't really take umbrage with his performance. Like I do think that Jacob Elordi is a good actor. I just think that there wasn't a lot for him to do. He just played like a brooding kind of gruff guy. And I don't know. What do you think of his performance? I don't really have much to say about like that stuff. I really am more interested in talking about the film through a visual lens.
Okay. I think that it is important to touch on one of the controversies that has dogged this film from the beginning, which is Jacob Elordi's casting as Heathcliff, because in the novel, Heathcliff is of ambiguous racial origin. So it's implied, they use a racial slur to describe him in the book.
Romani.
And yeah, he might be Romani. He might be, there's lots of speculation. He might be Indian, or he might be black, or he might be Irish, right? Which at the time was also like a racial minority in this part of England. And it's not explicitly said in the book, but it is like an important just piece of context for the way that people treat him as a child. And to cast Jacob Elordi here, it's not the first time that a white person has been cast as Heathcliff, that's for sure. I don't think that a non-white person has ever been cast as Heathcliff in an English language adaptation of this.
And that's tough.
But it is very interesting that they cast Edgar as somebody with Pakistani background, right? So Shahzad Latif plays Edgar, and he has a Pakistani background. And it's interesting because this kind of swaps Heathcliff and Edgar's position in the novel, because in the novel, Edgar is like very conventionally handsome. He's a blonde white guy who's like very pretty, and everybody keeps talking about how beautiful he is.
And probably how lucky Catherine is.
Right. And Catherine is like, why don't I like him? Why don't I like him? And for them to kind of twist that, and for Edgar to be kind of this like schlubby, boring guy, and then for Heathcliff to be like who we all canonically think in the culture to be like one of the hottest guys out there, right, is like an interesting twist on the original narrative. And this is one of the examples of how Emerald Fennell kind of flattens the original source material, because instead of making it like this complex attraction between Catherine and Heathcliff, instead it's like this very straightforward, like, well, this guy's hotter, so I like him, but I can't marry him because he is of low class. And it kind of takes away any subtext about race that had to do with that. And it has this Bridgerton approach to race-blind casting, where we have both Nellie and Edgar as brown folks. And it's just like, they never, ever acknowledge it.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Which I think is, again, if you're looking at it from a straightforward, we're trying to make like a very pop MTV-ified, like Skins version of a romance, like a gothic romance, then sure, that works. But like if you're comparing it to the initial text, it feels like a flattening.
Yeah, well, and that's, again, part of why I think that she, at least in the marketing, like had the foresight to like be like, this is Wuthering Heights, put the title in quotes, because I don't think that she was interested really in, which is fine. I don't think she was really interested in doing a complicated story that really took on some of these themes of like social class and race. I don't think she was really interested in making a film that really dealt with those subjects in any kind of significant way.
Yeah, which
that's not really what she does.
And that's her decision, right? And I think that is
totally,
like,
and that's fine.
And she's been open about it from the beginning. I think she even said in an interview, and this has been quoted as like a negative thing, but she's like, I basically read Wuthering Heights at 14, and this film is like how I imagined it in my mind at 14.
Totally.
And I feel like that's valid.
Exactly. I think so too. And I think it's fine for her to make films like that. We don't need every film to be something that is, complicated and really has something to say and has like a real stance on all these complex subjects that make our world more difficult or interesting, really.
Right.
But I do have an issue with it just being called like one of the greatest love stories of all time, and I'm like, girl, this is not it. Okay, we need to talk about this while we're talking about characters, because then and like plot, because I do want to talk about the visuals, because I think this is the best part of the whole film.
I agree. Yeah,
I would like to talk about the BDSM of it all.
Okay.
It was so fascinating how they like approached this topic without really getting into it.
Yeah, so it is interesting.
Yeah.
There's 2 movies in theaters right now that are about this. There's Wuthering Heights, and there's Pillion, which is like they're calling it a dom-com, the A24 film.
Yes.
I'm actually seeing it later today. I kind of wish I had seen it. So
Are you?
Talk about it. Yeah.
Oh my God, I want to see it too. We should do an ep on it.
Okay, let's do it. We'll add it to the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see it. From what I've heard about Pillion, that does actually kind of get at the inherent tensions in a lot of those types of sexual relationships. What this film, Wuthering Heights, says is kind of just like, this is hot, and that's the only statement that it really makes. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it doesn't break down any of the kind of like subtext or potential societal taboos or things that can give rise to these types of sexual attractions, right?
Yes. I'm so sorry. This just reminds me. Okay, Justin, I know that you have not watched The Crown.
I have not. I have definitely not.
But there is a thing that happened. This is real. I'm not making this up. This is very real.
In the TV show The Crown.
This occurred in real life, but it was also portrayed in the TV show The Crown.
Okay.
This is a real thing. There was Tampon Gate that happened with now King Charles, but then Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles, where they had like phone sex and it was recorded by an unknown source and released. And he basically said that he wished he was a tampon so he could live inside her pussy. And I just thought about this because of Emerald Fennell portraying Camilla Parker Bowles. It's just like, damn, I can't get this out of my head.
Yeah. You know what? Another movie that did actually tackle this a little bit was Baby Girl, which is a movie that I think we both felt mixed about, but I think that Baby Girl did a much better job of discussing this topic than Wuthering Heights does, because Wuthering Heights isn't trying to discuss it. It's just trying to portray it and be like, this is hot, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly right.
Which I think is also fine, right? But it's just not trying to do that.
Yes. So this is how I feel about Emerald Fennell's work. I always feel that visually I love to watch it because she does have a really artistic look to it. But Homegirl is basically like the person in like your art class who, you know, and I can say that because I was probably this person several times who was like, I'm going to make something that's really pretty and then I'm going to have to figure out a way to make it more meaningful afterwards and like try to bullshit my way through the assignment. And that works in college sometimes. It doesn't always work when you're like doing a major motion picture release. So I would just rather that everybody go into this. And I think Emerald Fennell knows this about herself, that she's like, I make stuff that's cool.
And this is the perception of her films too.
Right.
Like people are not going into this film being like, this is going to be a complex dissection of class and race and attraction.
That's
people
not
know
what she's interested in doing. And I think that that's cool. Like, I like that she's like, I'm not a big thinker kind of director. I am like trying to portray interesting art and scenarios that other people want to watch.
Right.
And I do think that she is extremely talented because she does have really clear direction in all of her films of what she wants it to look like, feel like, and sound like. And I always like that about her stuff.
She has an appeal, clearly, because her films have been bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do also think that she has a certain knack for knowing what gets people talking.
100%.
Even if it's not that subversive. Like, I don't think that this film is subversive or like very punk rock or anything. But
no, I don't either.
In making a remake of Wuthering Heights, she just knows people are going to talk about it. The same way that if you have, what the fuck is the guy's name? Sabrina Carpenter's ex.
Oh, God. Not
Barry Keoghan.
Barry Keoghan. Thank you. I was thinking Liam Neeson.
And that's 2 for the Neeson count.
2 for the Neeson count.
The same way that she knows that if you have Barry Keoghan waving his dick around on screen, it's going to get people talking, even if it doesn't fucking mean anything.
Right.
So she definitely has a knack for it. And props to Emerald Fennell for that. I
agree. I do think that in that way, she's really kind of a genius because she really gets what people are interested in seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I do want to talk about this. I want to say the set design for this show or for this film is crazy good.
Great.
I love how many big practical sets there are. It does a great job of making you feel like you are in the room. It doesn't feel like it's a big green screen thing. Even those shots of them like on the Yorkshire moors, like all those, huge stone rock, outcroppings, even though obviously that was like part of it was green screen, like it didn't feel that way. They did a really good job providing like depth, and the homes that were portrayed in this film, both Wuthering Heights and then the Linton house, were really well done. The juxtaposition between the houses is so interesting because Wuthering Heights is like so grim, so rough around the edges.
It goes back to that disgustingness is attraction, right? Because like while Catherine is at Thrushcross Grange or whatever, the Grange, I forget what the name is. But whenever she's over there, everything is like sterile and clean and not sexualized at all. And then even though Wuthering Heights is like disgusting, right? Like filled with trash, filled with grime. That's what she associates with sexuality and attraction. So like that, so it is like, again, literalizing that very first scene again.
Yeah. There was stuff though that I just like really couldn't get past. Like I couldn't get past like how absolutely filthy they all were, especially like everyone from the Wuthering Heights crew. Like I was just like, everyone needs to shower. Why would you have dead pig carcasses like everywhere?
I think this is just this is not your kink thing. Do you know what I mean? I think some people are into this and some people are not.
Into pig's blood, Justin?
Not pig's blood.
Into filth? Dirty into fingernails filth, in your mouth?
Taboo stuff. Yes, some people are into that.
Justin.
That's what I mean. And clearly Emerald Fennell is into that and is making this movie for people that are also into that, or at least understand it from some perspective, I'm just telling you, I think this is the intention. I don't think that is, it's not a mistake that those things are so dirty.
I'm sorry. Her like traipsing through in her big ruffled skirt that she just got, that's white, and like walking through
the pig's blood,
yeah. And then like the horse shit was so unnecessary and gross. Who is into that? That's yucky. That's icky poo. You're getting an infection.
That's a question I have, is how did Heathcliff and or Catherine never get an infection of some kind?
Literally. It's so gross. I hate it.
Well, just to go back to the production design for one moment, one thing that I found myself thinking in the middle of the movie was like, this kind of feels like a fantasy movie in a lot of ways, like in terms of the production design,
especially the Linton house.
And I think Wuthering Heights, like the external designs, the set designs that they had, especially when they were children, and they had these almost like onyx looking black stone outcroppings that were like massive right around the house. Like there's no way that's a natural formation. It looks like
that did feel like a fantasy,
something out of a fantasy novel. And this same thing with like if you remember when Mr. Earnshaw dies and there's like these giant stacks of bottles on either side of him.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of moments like that where I'm like, whoa, this is like really heightened. This is feeling like a fantasy.
Heightened is exactly the words I was going to use. Yep.
Yeah. I really like that. I think that's really cool and creative.
I do too. And I also thought that this movie, because like it takes place in such like a grim setting, the world of this film is just very grim. I really enjoyed like the way that the Linton house felt so sterile and clean and bright and happy and dramatic even, with like the blood red walls and everything. I thought that was kind of cool. I want to talk about this though. This was one thing I did have an issue with. The dollhouse that Isabella had.
Okay, tell me about it.
Okay. I kind of got that. She was kind of like, being like, this is my perfect little fantasy world, and here's my perfect little dollhouse with another mini dollhouse inside it. It was very Inception coded. It was very much like adding to the heightened fantasy aura of this section of the film. But the part that I thought was like really strange and like ultimately led to nothing, this could be a small spoiler, was when Catherine looked into Isabella's dollhouse and saw that Isabel had like murdered her doll version of herself.
Oh, I just interpreted that as Isabella expressing her anger at Catherine because of what had gone down between those two and Heathcliff, basically.
Yeah.
And not so much that it was a foreshadowing.
Okay. Well, I guess I took it more literally as like a foreshadowing of her going to like murder Catherine. Or even for there to be some kind of climax between the two of them, which there ultimately did not. That never happened.
Yeah, maybe this is a good opportunity to take a break and we can go into some spoilery stuff that happens in the back half of the film.
Okay.
What's up, y'all? Editor Justin here. If you want to skip spoilers for a 200-year-old book, you can go ahead and skip to 108:38. See you there.
Spoilers abound, F-slurs.
Basically, what ends up happening is Heathcliff kind of seduces Isabella in what is, I genuinely think Alison Oliver is just like really funny and a great actor. Like the fact that she portrays this completely hapless character in this film versus her character in Task even, who is like a totally different person. She's a great comedic actor and she also was in Saltburn. And again, a totally different character in Saltburn too.
I don't remember her in Saltburn. What did she play?
She was the sister, Jacob Elordi's sister in Saltburn, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
she was almost unrecognizable because she, I think, had like bleached her hair.
Wow.
Yeah.
She's a chameleon because I didn't recognize her until you said that she was in Task. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
She's great.
No kidding.
And also dating Josh O'Connell. So props to her on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for them.
There is this scene where Heathcliff seduces her, and it's played for laughs. After that, there's this kind of like competition between Isabella and Catherine, where Catherine is jealous of her, and Heathcliff is intentionally trying to make her jealous.
Yeah, dork-sided.
And it's only when Heathcliff finds out that Catherine is dying in childbirth that he like rides on his horse to go see her and reunite with her, and he finds her dead, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah,
that's how it ends. I was kind of like, that's it. The movie wasn't short, but I was like, damn, they're really just going to end it there. That's about halfway through the book, for the record. So there's a whole like Degrassi, The Next Generation thing that goes on, where Heathcliff kind of descends into complete madness and becomes more and more depraved after Catherine's death, which I think is supposed to add more to the tragedy side of things and talk about more about like what's the outcome of all of this like societal repression and this class structure that exists. And the movie is not, as we've discussed, not really interested in any of that.
Certainly not.
There's another scene that's played for laughs with Isabella where she's chained up in a dog collar in Wuthering Heights to a fireplace. Yeah. And Heathcliff has her barking like a dog. And again, this is a scene that's played for laughs because like Isabella is so digmatized by Heathcliff that she's literally doing whatever he says. It's only about 15 minutes later that we're supposed to be feeling sympathy for Heathcliff as he like rides on his horse to go reunite with Catherine before she dies.
Yeah.
And this is where the tonal whiplash like really hit me. Like, to be totally honest, like in the first half of the movie, I was like, damn, people are really shitting on this movie. I don't think it's as bad as people think it is.
And then that happened. Things took a turn.
Around the back half where all of this kind of like tonal whiplash was going on, that's where I was like, ooh, I don't think this is really hitting for me the way that it is for some other folks. That tonal whiplash and like that failure to reckon with Heathcliff as somebody who is like genuinely kind of a terrible person is like weird. And it's asking us to it's not asking us to be like, this is such a tragedy that this happened. It's more like, this is the romance, this death and his galloping, and like, this is the romance of the film. And I just couldn't really sympathize with that. And for me personally, I think that was the issue. The biggest issue of the film on like a thematic level was just that the movie was asking us to sympathize with Heathcliff that soon after we see this like horrible behavior where he has Isabella chained up. And just for context, like it's played for laughs in the film, and she's kind of like into it, at least in a sexual way in the film. And I think that's to downplay the fact that in the book, it is not consensual. It is like he is like torturing her and like being abusive.
Not good.
That's tough, right? I mean, imagine the tonal whiplash if that was the case in the film, right?
Yeah.
So I think the only way for them to kind of get around that was to make it so that Isabella was this kind of like comic relief character who was almost comically into Heathcliff.
That's tough.
Yeah, it was an interesting ending.
It felt sort of like they wanted to tell this romance, or she wanted to tell this like story about Heathcliff and Kathy and had no real way of ending it. And this was sort of what she chose to do. I want to talk about Nellie because we haven't talked about her at all.
Yeah, let's talk about Nellie, because she also has a very large role in that back half of the film. And this is another thing that I was like, what is this supposed to mean? Where Nellie was essentially burning letters from Heathcliff and Isabella at different points to like make Catherine feel like Heathcliff wasn't interested in seeing her, basically.
Right.
Because Catherine, it's implied that maybe she wasn't eating because she was in such a state of depression over not seeing Heathcliff, and that may have contributed to her death.
Wait, implied? She was like literally like refusing food and starving herself on purpose.
Well, I wasn't sure because she has sepsis. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure this order of events, right? Because she dies because her fetus dies inside of her and she becomes septic, right?
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if that preceded the food or if it was the other way around. But I guess you're right. I guess it must have been that she wasn't eating and thus the fetus died and that led to her death.
Yeah, because, Nellie kept being like, you have to eat. It's not good for you, for the baby, blah, blah, blah. Like, This is ridiculous. You have to eat, But that, I don't know. It just like, the movie just really fell apart after Heathcliff decided to leave and marry Isabella.
I'm with you on that one.
For me, I just felt like I was like, oh no, what have we done here? Things like really took a bad turn.
I wasn't sure what Nellie represented in the larger plot, right? Like
Neither was I.
It felt contrived, that she would discard all of those letters, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, what's the point of this? Like, what is she trying to?
Yeah, like it's clear that maybe she thinks that Edgar is better for Catherine, like in a big scheme thing, right? So she wants her and Edgar to stay together, but also she told Edgar that, I don't know, it doesn't line up.
The whole thing for me is I feel like Nellie just feels like the only person with her head on straight in this entire movie. And because of that, she's like, these people are all fucked up and crazy, and I have to just look out for number one. And so it felt to me like, in a way, Nellie was sort of like a surrogate for the audience, but that kind of belies the fact that Emerald Fennell wanted everybody to be, shipping this romance between Heathcliff and Catherine.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I didn't really feel like Nellie was an audience surrogate at all. I felt like Catherine was supposed to be the audience surrogate.
What?
In Emerald Fennell's mind, everybody is infatuated with Jacob Elordi. Like, that's people who are going to see this movie are obsessed with Jacob Elordi. So like, they are in Catherine. I feel like if anybody is the audience surrogate, it's Catherine. Like, that's whose perspective you're in as the audience, I feel like.
If that was the goal, I don't think it worked, because I thought that Catherine was a flop and like really naive and also very selfish to the point of like narcissism. And Nellie is like was her dad's like basically indentured servant, it sounds like both Heathcliff and Nellie seem like they were indentured servants to Catherine's father. And they also both were in ways like tasked with keeping an eye on Catherine and being like her built-in friend, almost like a sibling. And I just feel like Nellie was like the only one who saw things clearly from the jump and was like, Catherine can't get out of her own way. I've really got to steer this girl in the right direction. And by doing so, like, get myself out of this shitty situation, which is like being an indentured servant to an abusive, crazy person with a drinking problem.
This is very interesting. Okay, because...
And so I saw Nellie as being like, we got to get Catherine with this guy, and then I need to move in there with her so that we can have like a comfortable, simple life.
This is so fascinating. Okay, I totally understand and respect that reading, because I think that you are somebody who tends to sympathize with the working class character in any given work. And Nellie is really the only, other than Heathcliff, working class person in this work that like we get a lot of screen time with. But you got to remember, Emerald Fennell is a white woman who had a very, if not rich, upper middle class background in Britain. And I feel like she identifies with Catherine, right?
Of course she does.
And it's interesting because Catherine, of course, is the daughter of a landowner, although she's like middle class. Like, compared to Heathcliff, she's upper class, but compared to Edgar, she's lower class than him, right? So I feel like that's where Emerald sees herself as like a creative and as a person. So while I think that it's interesting and completely understandable that you would identify more with Nellie, and it's funny that you would be like, I'm going to use this selfish girl as like a pawn to get myself into a better place. I do think that the film is intended mostly to be seen through the lens of Catherine. At least there were a lot of white women in the theater that I watched it in, Jeff, and I can tell you they were definitely identifying more with Catherine. And in that reading, Nellie is way more of a villain.
That would make for a more interesting movie if it were actually the focus had been between Nellie and Catherine's relationship.
Yeah, agree.
That would have been more interesting. It would have been very much like The Other Boleyn Girl.
Well, there's a lot of subtext there, right? It's like, how much do you blame Nellie? Especially, again, she's not white, right? She's one of the...
I don't blame Nellie for anything. Catherine had it coming. This is a situation of her and Heathcliff's own making. This movie could have been more interesting if it was more focused on relationships other than if it decentered Catherine and Heathcliff's relationship and explored Catherine's relationship with Nellie, and if it also really examined the idea of familial trauma.
Jeff, you should really check out the book, because that's exactly...
I don't want to read the book.
That's what the book is about. But, you don't read. You actually can't read. So
I can't.
That's just like a line from the film. Yeah. And on that note, Jeff, I think it's time to move on to something that I'm going to take a jump here, take a little bit of a leap here, something that we enjoy a little bit more than the film itself, which is, of course, the Charli XCX companion album, also titled Wuthering Heights.
Yeah.
This is her second soundtrack album after Bottoms and her follow-up to Brat. It was produced largely by Finn Keen, who produced many of the songs off of Brat, including Von Dutch. And many of the songs were featured in the film. So, Jeff, what did you think, high level, of the Charli XCX album, Wuthering Heights?
I just really feel like, as I would say this was like a C- film for me. I think that the soundtrack was great.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think that Emerald just like does a great job in figuring out what she wants something to look and feel and sound like. And maybe the story and all that other stuff comes secondary. But I thought that this did a really great job of, what did you call it? The MTVification of this tale?
Yeah, I really think it is like...
Yeah. You know what this reminded me of, Justin? I think Emerald Fennell is like this generation's Baz Luhrmann. Like really good at creating beautiful junk.
I know that you don't listen to this podcast, so it's incredible that you have the exact same opinion. But on The Big Picture, which is a Ringer podcast about film, they say Emerald Fennell is a music video director, and the closest compatriot she has is Baz Luhrmann. They came to the exact same conclusion. So
but
you're
I
not
think
the
they're
only person
exactly
to think
right
this.
then.
Yeah,
I think they're exactly right. Tell me what you thought about this Charli soundtrack.
I think that the best parts of the films are essentially the Charli music videos.
Mm-hmm.
When the opening scene came in and House came on, I was kind of like, oh, fuck yeah, I might be really into this. And then like the rest of the movie happened and I was like,
Yeah.
But that first scene, I keep going back to that and I'm like, this kind of fucking rules. This is kind of metal. And all of the other needle drops, Chains of Love, Always Everywhere, those are the best moments, right?
I liked Always Everywhere.
You have these beautiful gowns, you have these beautiful shots, and you have this music that's very evocative.
Come on. Gowns, beautiful gowns.
This is intentional. This is an intentional reference.
I know. It's just so funny.
And I love the album, honestly.
Damn,
when I first listened to it, I thought to myself, this is not as thematically deep as Brat, right? And I know that is, it's a high bar to clear. The themes here lyrically are just love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great, but it's just not as deep as something like Brat, where there's like a lot of meta stuff going on. I love this album as a standalone work, but I love it even more as a creative reset for Charli, because it's clear that, from the moment, it's interesting to talk about this soundtrack right after we talked about the moment, because it was clear that she was feeling very burdened by that 365 party girl persona.
Right.
And this, like, tying this album to a different creative work really allowed her to kind of get out of her own head and just completely shift to a different mode, which feels a little bit like Throwback. Like, I think that Dying for You, which is, I think, one of the singles that has been released in concert with the film, sounds like an old school Charli pop banger. The vocal delivery that she gives feels like something off of True Romance. We've talked about karaoke songs and how I like to sing belters, as I call them, as opposed to like maybe more dancey tracks on Brat. There are some absolutely belter choruses on this album. Chains of Love, Eyes of the World. There's a lot of like big like power ballad vibes here. And I think that's cool. I think I said when we talked about Juno on the Short and Sweet episode, I was like, we got to get more big choruses out there. And Charli stepped up to the plate and she, knocked it out of the park.
I think that this album is a reminder that our girl is a musician. She can really do it all. She can write, she can compose. The use of strings on this entire album, I think, is immaculate. It reminds me, I'm trying to think of the beginning of I don't think it's track 10. There's like one Charli song that has like an opening with like strings, and I'm going to find it. And it really reminded me of I'm like, oh, I can see her DNA through all of this, even though this is like a companion album to like a blockbuster movie. It like really feels like its own Charli work. And I like that.
Oh, yeah. It has a very consistent sonic palette that it works with. And you're right to shout out the strings, because every single song has some version of strings, some of it very melodic, some of it very dissonant, which I think is interesting. And as much as we maybe don't agree with the themes of the movie, does align with the themes of the film, right? There's a combination. I already mentioned like the big power ballads, like the I Don't Want to Miss a Things that are on this album. But at the same time, there are these kind of like experiments like House, Wall of Sound, Open Up that are almost like ambient and spoken word.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that she kind of mashed up those two different sides. I think you can fit each of the songs on this album into either of those buckets. And honestly, the more I listen to it, the more I like it. So this might be low key like a contender for me, personal favorite album of the year in terms of like the pop landscape. I think that it's okay for it to be not as thematically deep, and like not everything has to be like a meta-analysis of an artist's persona.
It's definitely like different for Charli in that it is like, you know, she composed like these ballads, like you were saying, and used like an orchestra. Like there's a lot of Charli's DNA all over it.
Yeah, I think there's probably a combination of a lot of sampled strings in addition to actual live strings. Like the Dying for You opening, for example, is clearly
Charli doing samples.
She would never. She's all natural,
that
baby.
Doesn't sound like her. Doesn't sound like her.
I do want to shout out a couple of songs that I find like the highlights of the album. So
yeah,
I've already talked about some of the power ballads like Chains of Love. It's only grown on me over time. I think it's like a real headbanger. But a couple of like slightly weirder songs that are on this album that I think are really cool is Seeing Things, which borrows a little bit of that like talk rapping the streets style from Brat, but to talk about like the experience of seeing somebody around, whether you're obsessed with them or whether they're like a ghost and they're haunting you. Very Wuthering Heights.
Very.
I find that rap singing almost like funny in a very endearing way, where she's kind of just like walking around and she's like, oh, I see that guy over there in the window. And then the chorus is very like 1975 almost, or it sounds like a Jack Antonoff production, even though I don't believe he had any role on this album. Like there's pianos that come in and mingle with the strings. I think it's just like a really interesting sounding song and one that people might not pay attention to on first listen. And then I also really like My Reminder, which is the penultimate song on the album and has a very like Swedish pop sound to it.
I don't remember that one.
Sounds kind of like a good version of a Taylor Swift song off of this newest album that she just put out. So like,
damn,
which she did do in collaboration, of course, with Max Martin. So I wonder if the Swedish pop is kind of the linkage there.
That could be.
But yeah, those are two kind of like slightly weird songs that maybe wouldn't have stood out on first listen, but on repeated listens, I'm like growing to love both of those quite a bit. How about you? Any songs that you want to shout out?
Always Everywhere. That's my favorite song on the album.
Beautiful song.
It really is.
Very evocative. Yeah.
Love the strings, love the crescendo towards the middle of the song, the peak of the song.
All right, well, Geoff, that's Wuthering Heights. Very complicated conversation surrounding Wuthering Heights, but like we said, Emerald Fennell, she knows how to get us to
Beautiful
talk.
junk.
Yeah.
Beautiful junk.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break and we'll come right back with our What's Goods.
Okay.
And we're back.
Justin, we're so back, and we're so at that time of the podcast where we like to ask each other what we've been reading, watching, listening to in the last week or so. So, Justin, I'd like to ask you, what's good with you this week?
Well, Geoff, I'm going to talk about another movie this week. Something that I liked a lot more than Wuthering Heights. It's called No Other Choice. This is a Korean film directed by Park Chan-wook, who is probably like the second most well-known Korean director in the West after Bong Joon-ho. And this film stars Lee Byung-hun. This is a film, and not just because it's a Korean film, but it is very much in conversation, I think, with Parasite. It is very much a anti-capitalist film that's very critical of the career chase. And it has a lot to say about like gender roles and the way that we all keep feeling like we have to stay on this hamster wheel of our career and maintaining our status in society. But what is all of that really worth? So the general premise is that the main character, who's played by Lee Byung-hun, is a worker at a paper factory. And he's kind of like a middle manager at this paper factory. And he gets laid off after an American corporation buys the Korean paper company.
Tales all this time.
Slight sidebar here. Fascinating when paper is used as like a metaphor for like a meaningless job. It's weird parallel to The Office, right?
Yeah, paper pushers.
Exactly. But he's laid off. And in this world, and I'm not sure how much of this is like heightened from the reality in Korea or how much is like just true to life. Like everybody who gets laid off goes to like therapy, and they all have to do like these group therapy sessions where they like cry about what they're worth and like that they're definitely going to get another job. It's like they're manifesting this like job process, this job hunt process. In applying for other jobs, he realizes that like everybody else that have been laid off from similar positions are competing for those same jobs as he is. And there's only like maybe 1 or 2 jobs that he's qualified for. So he comes to this completely unhinged conclusion of, I'm going to pretend like I am an employer hiring a new middle manager at a paper factory. And I'm going to receive all the applications from all of my competition, right? Because they're all applying to the same types of jobs.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to murder all of them so that when I apply for the job, I'll be the only applicant.
The only one.
Easy, right?
Totally.
So it kind of turns into like a Coen Brothers-esque crime drama where you've got this middle manager at a paper company who like is not an experienced criminal. He is like hilariously going through the motions of trying to kill these people, and killing somebody is actually a lot harder than you might think. So a lot of comedy ensues. So it is a bit of a comedy. It's a black comedy. As the movie progresses and as he continues through this roster of his competition, he gets like a little bit better and better and better at being a killer. And this is like kind of a metaphor again for the job hunt process or the career climb process, right? It's like you need to cut other people off at the knees to climb the corporate ladder. And when he does finally reach his endpoint on that climb, the audience is left thinking, what was all that about? And like, was this really worth it? So very funny, very thrilling film. The director, Park Chan-wook, is insanely stylish with his decisions. There's this one shot where the main character does essentially like a, what do they call it? What's the like a Jaeger bomb or like one of those drinks where you drop a shot glass into a beer and you chug it. And the camera is attached to the beer. And as he like puts his head back to chug it, the camera follows it. And he has like so many flares or flexes on the directorial side where you're never bored in a single moment watching this movie. The direction is so stylish and cool. I really wanted to talk about it today because we're about to begin our Oscar coverage here. We're going to talk about a couple of Oscar nominees for Best Picture, Marty Supreme, and One Battle After Another. This movie was completely snubbed at the Academy Awards, including in foreign film.
Right.
And I think that's like absolutely wild. This was like one of the best films from 2025. It might have like made my top 3 or 4 if I had seen it last year. And it's really a pity because I think everybody should be seeing this. And like I said, it is kind of like in league with Parasite, which made history being the first non-English language film to win Best Picture. So yeah, I think more people should watch this. It's really great. I'm not sure if it's still in theaters. Whatever link I put in the show notes, you'll either be able to watch it on streaming or buy tickets wherever it's still available in theaters. But it's a real banger. So definitely check out No Other Choice, directed by Park Chan-wook.
Well, Justin, thank you for that. I did see the trailer for it. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is so evocative of Parasite. And I'm like, I need to check it out. And I wondered if it was made by the same person.
It was not.
Very fascinating.
I want to be clear. Like, there are a lot of great Korean films that don't have to do with anti-capitalist stuff. The reason why this is so close to Parasite is not because they're both Korean filmmakers, but just because the subject matter and the themes are so similar, and the tone, actually. Like, they're both kind of very dark comedies.
Okay. Justin said all Korean films are the same. They all look alike. That's what I heard you say.
I don't know if I said that.
Okay.
Jeff.
Beg to differ. Yeah.
Moving on from that completely baseless accusation, I would love to know what's good with you this week.
Well, Justin, I'm thrilled to tell you about a comedy special. Remember how I was saying a couple of weeks ago, I don't really listen to a lot of comedy specials, and especially ones that feature men.
Comedy so back.
You'll be thrilled to know that I did watch a comedy special featuring a man.
Wow.
And that man is Marcello Hernández.
Okay.
Up-and-coming comic and now full-time cast member on SNL. I think this is his 4th year, his 4th season on the show. He's given us hits like Domingo, the Immigrant Dad Talk Show. Those are some of his like heavy hitters. And then he's just also just like a great like all-around like assisting character in a lot of sketches. Very good. So this is his first special, televised special. And it's on Netflix, and it's called American Boy. This was by far one of my favorite stand-up specials that I've watched in like the last year or so, or last couple of years even. I think I mentioned on the pod a few weeks ago that Hannah Einbinder's special was really good, and I think that this one was in league with that. So American Boy is basically like sort of like what you'd expect for someone's first special. It's like letting people get to know who this comic is and what their lens and viewpoint of the world is about. But he has some really great joke structures, and I think like ultimately this is a tale about immigrants not being a problem in America. He has like one great joke where he talks about how people are always saying that like the illegals are coming and they're stealing jobs. And he's like, so let me get this straight. Like, you're saying that the worst thing that we're doing is coming in and working illegally? And he's like, you never noticed how like Latinos are not coming into the United States and building basement bunkers full of little girls that they like to rape? And he's like, that's what you all do. That's white people who do that stuff. He's like, he's like, Latinos do fun crimes. We drive airplanes full of cocaine. He's like, that's a fun crime. And he's like, these people out here just working is not a fun crime, but it's just something we have to do to make ends meet and provide our families with a better life. And so he's like, kind of just, that is sort of like the lens in which he's talking about his experience living in America. He grew up in Miami. His mom is a Cuban immigrant. His dad is an immigrant as well. He talks a lot about like what it was like growing up in Miami as a Latino and then going off to college in Ohio. And he's like, that's where I understood that there are two kinds of white people whose parents hit them and those who didn't. And he's like, the white kids who got hit as kids, we respect you. We have a common experience. You're basically Hispanic. It was great. It was a really good special. He has a lot of great jokes. It was kind of cool to get to know him outside of his SNL persona. And I have to say that his press tour for this special has been really entertaining. He also does a great bit where he talks about how when he was little, he wasn't allowed to have ADHD because his mom was like, oh, you don't have that. She was like, that's a white person thing to have ADHD. She's like, my son don't have ADHD. He just like to jump. That was like his big joke. It was very good. So I highly recommend everybody watch it. It is on Netflix. Marcello Hernández's American Boy. Stream it now.
All right. Yeah, I'll give that a look. I haven't watched a stand-up special in a minute, so I'll give that one a watch for sure.
Oh, I should also say one thing that I loved about the special was not just like that he talked about that, but it was like very clear about the love that he had for his family growing up and how much family is like a central tenet of like his Cuban American heritage. It reminded me a lot of the Bad Bunny Super Bowl halftime show because that also focused a lot about like family gatherings and finding community and finding joy within the struggle.
Yeah.
So nice parallel there.
We love to see finding joy amongst the struggle.
We sure
During
do.
these dark times, Geoff, we got to find joy. And I feel like we did it this episode. Would you agree?
Justin, I always have joy when I'm doing the podcast with you.
Thank you, Geoff. And on that very surprisingly warm note, let's end the pod.
Surprising! Yeah, go fuck yourself. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. This has been Bants with Geoff and Justin. Bants is created and produced by Jeff Taylor and Justin Benavides. Graphic design by Jeff Taylor. Editing by me, Justin. The theme music for Bants is the track Nebraska With You by Sam Day and is provided by No Copyright Sounds. Email us at bantspod@gmail.com with any questions, recommendations, or just to say hi. If you like the podcast, rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And tell your friends. Bye. Actually, shockingly little butt in this film.
There is a shocking lack of nudity and sex in this film in general, I would say.
Yes. Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just background, Emerald Fennell.
Why are you always the one who gets to decide the cadence of our discussion? This is
because otherwise this would be absolute chaos.
Oh my God. We're talking about it.
Well, we will talk about it, but here's what I'm
precursors
saying.
Do you have to bestow upon us? Let's go.
Well, so far you've given your background and I've gotten maybe like 30 seconds to talk about my background with this stuff before you've interrupted me many times. So I'm just trying to get it out before we move on.